Hi, this is Roger Moore, and you're listening to James Bond Radio.
Hello, and welcome to James Bond Radio. We are back, everybody, and look who I'm joined by. It's only Mr. Wright, Chris Wright. How you doing, buddy?
And Station B, the Bahamas. Yeah, I'm doing all right, mate. Not too
I was
bad.
going to say, you look like you're in a very nice spot. Lockdown hasn't messed you up at all, has it?
No.
For those who are listening and not watching, Chris has like a Zoom background on a Bahamian beach by the looks of things.
Yeah, I was going for that Thunderball vibe. So yeah. It's, have you, just out of interest, have you watched any Bonds recently during lockdown, or have you kind of had a little break from it? Or
well, it's an interesting story. It's a funny one because when we had Bond coming out back in April, we were at fever pitch, weren't we? We were ready for it. We were a couple of weeks away, and then obviously all the shit went down, and it was like, no, November. And it's after that happened, obviously the fan community came together, and we did all those like live events and all that kind of stuff with the really Bond experience, and everybody coming together, and loads of stuff going on online, which was great. Everybody locked down and all the rest of it. And then it got to sort of like May and June, and it's like, I'm not sure. I think I need a break because we've got such a long way to November. I think I just need to switch that off a little bit. So that's exactly what I've done. I've explored some other things in life, Chris. I've shut Bond out of my life for a few months, and I've read The Lord of the Rings from start to finish. I've gone super geeky. I've done all sorts, and I even found a Bond link in The Lord of the Rings, actually, funnily enough. Did you know, Chris, that what's the name of the town where the elves live? In the Fellowship of the Ring. Is it Rivendell or somewhere like that?
Rivendell sounds about right, I think.
Anyway, Lord of the Rings geeks.
Not the Shire.
No. Where all the elves live. Right?
Yeah, Rivendell. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Do you know what inspired that? That was Lauterbrunnen. Why is Lauterbrunnen Bond related, Chris?
Well, it might have been a place that we visited last year for Majesty's Secret Service.
Indeed it was.
Wow.
That is where Sir Hilary arrives on the train, isn't it? Yeah. It's that little village.
That's really cool.
Basically, back in the day, old J.R.R. Tolkien was yomping in Lauterbrunnen. I thought it was one of the most beautiful places he's ever been, and that's what inspired that place. So I thought, I see Bond everywhere. There it is. Even when I'm having a rest from Bond, there he is cropping up, which is nice. So I've been doing all sorts of different things. Do you know what? There's something else I've done as well, completely unexpected for me, something I haven't done since I was a young lad, which is I've explored... This
isn't going to be rude, is it?
No, it's not. It's going to be wholesome. It's going to be family orientated, thankfully. I've explored the world of computer games again, right? Lockdown was going on, nothing going on. Usually, when I was a wee lad, I got into computer games a little bit too much, and I thought, if I'm ever going to have any kind of life, I need to just stop doing this because I'm spending too many hours on it. So I shut that away, and I lived my life, basically, and that's been me for the last 20 odd years. And then I thought, lockdown's happening, I'm going to have a go again. I'm going to power it up. And I've been playing Fortnite, which some of the younger listeners will obviously know. And you know what? I thought, this is what Bond needs to do, right? Because you log into this game, right? And it's this big thing where everybody gets dumped down onto an island and everybody shoots each other, and it's last man standing kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But it was like a window into what the kids are doing these days. God, I sound old, right? But it's what the kids are doing these days, right? So when you log in, it's all like themed based on big movies that are coming out. So like there's like a Marvel thing in there where like... Really? You can play as the different superheroes, like you can play as Thor, and there's like storylines going on from the Marvel universe in Fortnite.
How do they get the rights for that then?
I guess there's some sort of partnership going on, right? And I'm like, this is how Bond needs to capture the kids these days that are coming up. Like we've all often said, haven't we? We worry about that next generation of Bond fan, don't we? Because it's everything else going on. Video games, there's Marvel taking over and Star Wars, and where does Bond sit in that when it comes to young people?
One film in 8 years Bond? Or whatever it's been.
Exactly. And you know what? So I was playing it the other week, and out of the forest comes Wolverine, right? And I shoot Wolverine and he dies. And I'm like, I just killed fucking Wolverine. That's cool. And I go over and he drops his claws, and I can pick up Wolverine's claws and run around as Wolverine, killing people with my claws.
That's
and I'm
amazing.
like, oh my God, they should do this with Bond. Can you imagine, man? If not killing Bond, obviously, but if you could play as Bond or they had Bond-themed content in Fortnite or any kind of game like that.
And you could get all the villains and all the henchmen and everything like that.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
That's how you get the kids these days, you know? Have you seen Fortnite? Do you know what it is?
I've seen a little bit of it in terms of the characters, but I've not played it. And so I'm pretty much sort of don't know much about it.
Yeah.
It's the same as you. I haven't played video games for a long time, so maybe it's something I should give a go as well.
But yeah, it just struck me as like, this is what the kids are doing these days. They're logging onto Fortnite from 8 years old or whatever it is, and that's how they're getting primed up. That's how Marvel and Iron Man and all that kind of stuff is staying top of mind for those younger people. That's where it is these days, you know. In our day, it was your dad or your older brother or whatever would see, like, we're going to sit down, we're going to watch Goldfinger, and that's how you would discover it. And I think that's not happening for the newer generation, and I think that's how they do it, man. If they were to have a partnership with Bond and have this whole, a month of Bond-themed content in a game like that, the amount of users that thing has is incredible. Like the amount of buzz that could generate from a Bond film would be immense. So there's my flag in the ground. That's how we get them, Chris.
And do you think that's ever a possibility with Eon sort of getting involved with it or not?
But I tell you what, though, they've joined the 21st Century and started a podcast, haven't they, this week?
Yeah, I know. That was interesting news, wasn't it? Have they? I think they're releasing. Is it only six episodes?
So.
I think.
Yeah.
And is it the first or the second one might be out? I'm not sure. Definitely the first one out anyway.
I've not had a chance to listen to it because it's just come out as we're recording this, so I've not had a chance to listen to it yet. But yeah, so that's like a step forward that we've not had before. So that's cool. So you never know, man. By the time Bond 26 rolls around, maybe we will be having that sort of thing in video games and all the rest of it. But yeah, I just thought it was an interesting little thing that it's like, oh, that's a whole world that I knew nothing about. And then I jump in, and I must say I'm pretty good at it, Chris, because
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, Fortnite is primarily populated by young children of around 10 years old. So I get in there, Tommy gets in there, and Tommy dominates, man. It's great. Right. And I take little screenshots.
I don't know if you want that sentence sort of quoted and banded around anywhere.
Yeah, I should probably rephrase that.
Yeah.
But look, every time I win, I take a screenshot of my screen. Look, there was my last one. Look at that.
Victory
Royale. Number one.
Nice.
Even says Royale, which is very Bond-like.
That is very cool. So what does your actual character look like? Can you choose between different characters? Can you make the different characters look in a certain way? Or
yeah, I've just got some random dude in like a scuba man outfit, which was the closest sort of Bondian thing I could find. But he's got long blonde hair and a beard, so a
bit like Pierce, I suppose.
I guess so. Yeah. But yeah, there's all sorts of different things you do. But yeah, so that's what I've been up to. What have you been up to, man? I hear Cardiff has been locked down again, man. So you're shutting doors, aren't you?
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah, luckily we're in lockdown now again. It keeps on obviously changing. I feel like this is the second wave coming, and there may be a third, who knows. But I managed to get away, me and the missus managed to get away for the weekend we went to this wicked Airbnb place. And it's only open for a certain length of time in the year because we're staying in this yurt, which looks really cool. It's when in fact, it was amazing, right? I'll have to show you the photos. I was lying down on the bed looking up, and it's got this sort of circular opening on the roof with sort of this, with these branches crossed over it, and then these big sort of sticks coming down on the side, and it looked like the interior of a Ken Adams volcano set.
I was going to say, it sounds very whenever you have a circular ceiling.
Yeah, I'll have to show it to you, and it. It's the crater's kind of angled slightly on the Ken Adams set. And from the way that I was lying down on the bed, that's exactly what it looked like. So I felt very I had my bit of Bond moment there.
There you go, man.
But it was really cool. And it had this sort of, it had 4 different buildings. I say buildings, sort of construction sort of places. And one of them was, all it had inside it was one of those old cast iron baths. But it had a cool sort of Q-type gadget where one of the walls lowered down. And basically it opened out onto this sort of vista of fields and hills and trees and like there were some sheep about and everything. So you could sit lie down in your bubble bath, sip a glass of bubbles, and take it all in, which I thought was I did feel a bit sort of like Sir Roger in that moment. I must say,
yeah, man, very Bond-like. So there you have it, man. No matter what happens, you have a break from Bond, and you still end up finding Bondian moments to enjoy. So
this is it. Yeah, got to be done.
Very nice. So, Chris, the ultimate question has to be: No Time to Die. Then, right? What? How are you doing with that, man? How are you feeling? Have you still managed to avoid everything? Do you not know anything? You not watched anything? What's going on?
It's weird, isn't it? I've been very close to being tempted to just go F it. I'm going to just absorb everything. Yeah. But just because of the wait, it's so long and it's been ages. And there are a couple of times where I thought, well, basically at the moment, I've pretty much the same as probably the last time I spoke to you. I haven't watched any trailers. I've seen some stills and I've read a couple of lines by accident that have been blasted into my face through headlines on websites or whatever. Yeah. And I've tried to mentally block those and snip them out. And most of the time, I think I've managed to do that all right. So all in all, I almost don't want to think about it because then it'll bring stuff back, which I might have seen. But really, I know bugger all, right, very nice. Which I'm really happy with. But I don't know if that can last. And also it's a strange one, obviously, with this November thing. So I'm sure you'll chat this with the guys later, but what's your take? Because obviously they were saying November and some people think next year, but if I think it's a lot of the country at the moment, particularly within the UK, is in lockdown, would they still release when it's like that? I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? That's
the thing. Yeah, I should say actually that we're going to have a deep discussion of the No Time to Die trailers and everything so far. In a moment with the other boys. We're going to have a preamble with you because you don't want to hear anything. So you're going to sit out of that bit. We're just going to have a little pre-chat. And then I'm going to be joined by Misters Dobson and Lugo in a moment. And we're going to go deep on everything. Nice. But yeah, I'm in two minds because we the two of us were sort of playing it week by week, weren't we? Because we were like, okay, we'll come back in October. And then with all the news and stuff, it felt like things were going the wrong way. And I was like, I'm pretty sure we're not going to get it in November. I feel like it's going to get put back again. But in recent days and weeks, the promo machine is moving forward. So I feel like they're set on it. But then I guess if the government make any sort of big decisions, it could be, if everything locks down the day before it comes out or something, what do you do? So I still feel like that's up in the air. I'm still not 100%. If you'd have asked me this last week, I'd have said, there's no way we're getting it in November. Yeah. If you ask me it today, I'm like, I think we will, but I'm also not sure. I feel like it could go either way still.
What do you think in terms of certain countries going into total lockdown? Say, for instance, the UK went crazy right, a national lockdown again. Do you think Eon would release No Time to Die in certain other countries which perhaps aren't as effective as, say, the UK or whoever, or do you think it has to be all at once, like global sort of
Dude, it's
release?
Such a strange situation. I have no idea what you would do in that. I guess you take as much money as you can because the amount of money that's been put into this thing, they're going to need that payday. So you take what you can get at this point.
And also, the longer it goes on, the more money it's costing them. It's not like it's not doing anything. They're not releasing it, but it's still money that they're paying for maybe returns on loans or whatever it might be. So the sooner they get the money to cover that, the better it is for them. But then it's that balance of getting some money back versus getting a lot more. But when is the right time to do that? So,
Absolutely. So I don't know, man. I think it's just one of those things of just buckling up and hoping for the best.
I just thought of a funny image. In The Simpsons when what's his name? Mr. Burns, whenever he's got an issue, he presses a button and all these lawyers come out in their suits. I can just imagine Eon's got the same thing. They press the button and all these lawyers 100%. And accountants just in their suits come out and they're like, right, this is, you've got to try and determine this. And they all get in a room and try and sort it all out. That's kind of my vision of Eon's solicitors. What do you think?
100%. Yeah, I imagine that their lawyer bill is pretty pretty damn
pretty high. They've probably got like a special room in Eon House where the lawyers, they basically eat and sleep and stay there, and then as soon as they're called, the wall folds down, and then they all step out and like, right, what can we do for you? Yeah,
full-time lodging. It's like your wall in the yurt. I imagine that just drops down. There's a map on the wall with some lights on it.
Yeah,
and away they go. All right, Chris, let me ask you this then, man. Like how as a man who's not watched any trailers or read anything about it, just the odd thing, how confident are you in No Time to Die? Are you what's, I guess what I'm asking you is, what's the feeling, what's your gut feeling? Do you have any feelings of like, I don't think this is going to be a good one, or this is going to be brilliant, or do you think it's somewhere in the middle? Like what's the ethers telling you?
I think my personal view is that it's verging on the better side. In terms of, I've heard, obviously I haven't seen anything, but I've heard people's reactions to things like the trailer, potentially some the story points, or even just seeing Bond in certain situations, whatever it might be. And there's been a lot of positive sort of talk around this. I think the director's a really, really good choice. A bit left field when we first found out, but I think he's a good choice. The only thing is, I'm kind of in a situation where internally there's this little like flame that's there, which is No Time to Die, and I'm not letting it, I'm not fueling that fire, I'm not letting it burn into like a roaring, breathing inferno until I know for definite when the film is coming out. Because it's a bit of a strange situation for me, because leading up to April, I was on the, do you remember that? God, April, it's going to be back then. I was trying to do the whole, right, I'm not going to watch anything, knowing that it's fine because April I'll get to see it, so it's all right. And then obviously when that didn't happen and it got pushed back, and it's like, oh, is it going to be the summer? And obviously then it became November, and I'm like, well, I kind of don't want to think about it, because if I get so sort of psyched up, so pumped up for it, and then it doesn't happen, I'm going to feel really deflated. And I feel like I haven't had to experience that because I haven't sort of absorbed it all like a lot of other people have. So the disappointment of it not coming around isn't as harsh for me. So what I want to do, if it's possible, is to, when I know it's 100% coming out, which could be the day before, you know, it might not be that. I don't think I can physically get as excited as I would be if it was a general sort of normal release that I thought it was going to be. So there's definitely a flame there, and I know it's going to explode when the time is right. Yeah. But I'm just keeping it on the low.
Your oven's on low right now is what it is. It's on low. It's just keeping you warm enough to get by. But you ain't turning it on full blast until you know for sure. Yeah, that's kind of why. I mean, we often take longer breaks over the summer and stuff, but that's kind of why I needed the long break from the podcast as well. It's just because it's kind of like, you know, you're going out with somebody and then she turns around and says, "I'm not sure if I'm ready for a relationship," and you go, "All right, have a bit of space or whatever," and then she's like, "All right, maybe we can get back together, but I'm not sure," and you're like, "Well, what am I supposed to do?" It's that limbo, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's that same thing. So yeah, I get it, man. It's tricky because when you get all pumped up for it and you're so excited, and because we've waited so long already, to have the carpet ripped out at the last minute would be a gutter. So what's your prediction then? What do you think? Gut feeling? Do you think it's going to go in November, or do you think it's going to be put back?
I think it'll probably be pushed back personally, just because it's hard, because like you said, the wheels have started to turn. The podcast and a few other bits of information supposedly has come out. But I just think it's so unpredictable, like the world and COVID and everything at the moment. And there are certain things, there are certain sport events that are happening and stuff like that. But I think with something like a cinema release, like how many people that could potentially involve in terms of going to the cinema, like, you know, millions of people across the world, and they want to get that right. So I think it will probably be pushed back again. If it's not, I definitely wouldn't be upset about it. I'd love it, because I want to allow myself to get excited, but I'm just not. Not because I'm not excited, because I think it's going to be brilliant from the vibe I've got and the director and people who are attached. Hans Zimmer as well, I think, will make a really interesting composer. I think it's going to be brilliant, and I know not for everyone, but for a lot of people, Spectre perhaps wasn't the film that they wanted. It wasn't the Bond film they wanted. There are certainly some fans of it, and we obviously had a brilliant night on the premiere night. But I think Daniel wouldn't have been happy going out on a film where perhaps it divided public opinion as much as it did. Because I think Casino, I think Skyfall, generally speaking, both of those really did well on both. Hits, on both the critics and obviously the general audience. And whereas I think Quantum and Spectre were perhaps not quite as strong, and you want to be proud about your tenure, about what you've done, and Daniel Craig is proud, and he's been a brilliant Bond. But I know that inside, well, I don't know, but I assume that inside he'll want to finish on a high. Yeah. And I think that drive that he had at Casino, when he had all that flack about, blonde Bond and he's only 5'10" and he'd be rubbish and look at his hair and all this. Like, that made him so determined, and not just him, like obviously at this time Martin Campbell and everyone else involved, so determined to make it an absolute banger of a film. And I think in a strange way that perhaps the critical reception to Spectre, which wasn't as strong, and potentially for the character of Bond within that film, I think that's going to make Daniel more determined to make this an absolute banger of a film to go out on. That's what I think, and I really hope that's what happens as well.
All right. Very nice. Yeah, I think so. I've watched both of the trailers, the two main trailers. I've not gone deep in the weeds of like leaked things or anything or any of the tabloid stuff. I've tried to stay away from that. But I have watched both the trailers, and I do get a very good feeling.
Okay, that's good. I was going to obviously ask. Do you with the trailers? Sometimes they show a teaser where you just get a few little action scenes and not much else, and then other times they give a bit more. Were they, in terms of content, was one more action driven and one gave you a bit more story, or were they equal in terms of what they portrayed?
I think both quite action packed.
Yeah,
but at the same time, there's some things in there that like, I don't know anything that's happening in the story, basically.
Okay, that's good.
I don't get that feeling that you'd get from, say, the Quantum trailer, where it was just Bond having a chase in various vehicles.
Yeah,
the action looks great, but at the same time, there's a lot of intrigue in there, which I'm like, what does that mean? What are they talking about? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, so, that's good. I like the sound of that.
So it's like, I remember when I first saw the Spectre trailer, and you were going dark on that as well, weren't you? You were like, I ain't watching that, not doing it, I'm going in dark. And I bullied you, didn't I?
Pretty much. I still got the scars.
I basically bullied you into watching it because I was so excited to see Blofeld again. And I was like, you just have to watch this.
And when it had that Majesty's theme over the other trailer as well, that was so good.
That stuff. So I think that to me was like all my childhood dreams come true in a trailer. Like, I've wanted the return of Blofeld since I was 5 years old, and I couldn't have been more excited. It doesn't have that level of power like that does, because that was such an event having Blofeld back after all that time. You know what I mean? But I'm very happy with what I see. That's all I'm going to say, because obviously I know you don't want to know anything or have any hints of anything. So I'm not going to give you anything. I'm not even going to give you a crumb of anything. But I'm very happy with what I see. It feels good. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm happy with that. The cast is brilliant. I think Ana de Armas was a brilliant sort of addition as well.
Yeah.
Ana de Armas. And So do you think it's November's a shoe-in, or do you think you're not sure?
I'm a little bit on the fence. I do. Yeah. I think probably we'll get it, but you never know. So I would say I'm probably 65-35 in favour of it coming out.
I like the specifics there.
Yeah. 60-40 didn't feel right. 65-35 definitely felt right in how I'm feeling. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if it was put back.
Right.
But I do think with things ramping up, I do think we will probably get it.
Okay.
But again, who knows? And they probably don't even know at this stage, because it could all go to shit. And
exactly.
They don't have any choice.
Until it's released, they don't know. I've got a potentially interesting question for you as well.
Mm.
If No Time to Die does brilliantly, does really, really well, do you think Eon would consider hiring Carrie Jo? Is it Fukunaga? I can't even say the name.
Oh yeah, Carrie Fukunaga. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think they'd hire him again whether Daniel Craig came back for another one or whether he didn't? Or do you think they'd just keep him with this one?
I feel like they do that, don't they? Because they seem to typically, if they have a director, they offer them the next one and they say, Martin Campbell, do you want to do the next one? Nah, I don't want to do that one. I think they even did that with Roger Spottiswoode. They offered him the next one. He was like, nah, I'm all right, thanks. So
a strange thing being with that, though, is that when they offered Martin Campbell initially, it would have been for another Pierce or Roger for Spottiswoode for another Pierce. But here, it would be for potentially a different Bond. So you're doing the last film for Daniel Craig and then the first Bond film for someone else, if it is indeed Daniel's last film. So that'd be interesting, I think.
But from what I see of it, visually, it looks great. There's some things that really do make me smile in there. Yeah. So I feel like he's done a good job. Don't know, I haven't seen it yet, obviously, but I'm confident that he's done us proud. So if it all being well, I'd happily see him back. It would be interesting to see that, wouldn't it? Because obviously we had a Mendes double biller, but for a long time it's sort of been like a one and done, isn't it? Campbell obviously did some 10, 11 years apart, but it would be interesting to see. Almost like Anthony Horowitz with the books, whether he's like, maybe I'll do 2 or 3 Bonds or whatever. But I do think Nolan's waiting in the wings, though. Nolan's waiting for the next dude.
You think so? Yeah. Have you seen Tenet? Just off topic.
Not yet. No, I do. I think I might see it this weekend if it's still on. Yeah,
we'll have to have a good chat about that next time. Then
absolutely. Have you seen it?
You think I have?
All right, cool. Let me ask you what the cinema experience was like for you when you watched.
Okay, this is interesting. Yeah, so this is what made me think. If they release No Time to Die and I shared a similar experience to what I did with Tenet, basically I got into Tenet. It's a super screen, so it's the biggest screen they had, probably 300 seats, 200 seats, whatever it is. I think there was a maximum of about 12 people in the whole cinema.
Damn.
Weirdly, 2 of the people of those 12 were sitting in the seats where I was like, there are seats.
That's your seat.
Out of everywhere. But no, it was very strange. So we went in with our mask on, and when supposedly you're meant to keep it on, but you could lift it up to have your drink or your snacks or whatever. But everyone took them off once they were sitting down. Yeah. But because there were so few people, it didn't have quite that atmosphere. Yeah. And if I was watching a Bond film like that, if it was just with mates, like if it was, say, a few of the JBR lot, that would be incredible, fantastic. Yeah. If you're watching it with like a few randoms, but there's no atmosphere there as well, I think it'd be quite, I don't know, half of me thinks it'd be really disappointing because you wouldn't get that buzz. Like you'd be enjoying what you're watching, but you'd be looking around going, who can I share that with? Exactly. And it's not quite there. So yeah, if it would end up being the same as that, then I'm half tempted to kind of go, I'd prefer it to be pushed back a bit. Yeah. But saying that, there was no sense of it being uncomfortable from that point of view. But I just think the atmosphere is where it would suffer unless because I mean, obviously Bond is Bond, and Bond is a huge draw. Yeah. Around the world is a huge draw. But Christopher Nolan is a huge draw as well. And you think Tenet is a big film, and if any film like Christopher Nolan, you'd imagine it would pack out the cinema, given the circumstances, maybe not fully, but at least have a few decent numbers. I guess the only other thing was they did plaster it every couple of hours, so maybe if they had fewer screenings, obviously there would have been more people. But I just think it would be a real shame if No Time to Die was released and it ended up having a handful of people per showing. So yeah. I'm a bit sort of catch-22 about that one, really. Yeah,
it is exactly that, isn't it? You don't know what the right move is. You go in November and you're the only show in town, and maybe you pull it out the bag, or if you do wait, then you're up against all the heavy hitters that have also been held back. And it's like, what do you do? Yeah, man, crazy times. Now I'm going to ask you one question, Chris, before we jump into, or if I jump in with Brian and Jack. What do you think is going to happen after No Time to Die, Chris?
Afterwards, okay.
Where do you think we're going to go? Do you think we've got a long break? Do you think we're going to have a selling situation where somebody else comes along and buys it? Do you think we're not going to have Bond for a decade or more? What are you thinking?
Well, I think it's probably safe to say it's Daniel's last. It might not be, but I'm thinking it probably is. Obviously, like everyone else listening to this, I'm hoping it's not going to be another 5 or 6 year hiatus until the next one. I think it could go two ways, which is a really sort of easy way of me getting out the answer, which is basically saying if Eon stay on, even though obviously Daniel is there, they're not thinking super, they're not going deep into the next Bond film yet. There must be some sort of ideas going and potential, at least potential Bonds, being spoken of. And I think if that happens and it stays with Eon, I don't think it'll be as long a turnaround as some people think it will. I think if they potentially sell, then I think the actual sale, there'll be quite a bit of time around that, the legal stuff, and that'll take a bit of time. But I think if it then gets taken over by a Disney or a Netflix and Amazon or whoever it might be, I think they'll churn one out as within a year and a half of buying it.
Right. Okay.
And then I think they'll be a lot more regular. They'll be like every 2-3 years max, 3 years max, I think.
So a lot of options there. What does your gut feeling tell you, man? What do you think is going to happen?
Right. It's tough, isn't it? What, heart or head? Because heart is obviously Eon to stay on, but to increase the output, basically. Yeah. That's where my heart is. Where my head is, well, I don't know. Obviously, Michael's getting old, but I think Barbara could still be in the game for another 15 years. Why not? And I think obviously Greg's around. I think Eon hang on to it. I think they just go on and move to the next Bond. Nice. And see how they're doing. I think that's
for somebody young and hungry who's like, let me do it. I'll take the job, and I want to do a Bond film every 2 to 3 years. Yeah, no breaks.
That'd be brilliant. Yeah, that'd be brilliant. But we'll see. But
all right, nicely done then. Well, it's good to see your handsome face again, Chris. It's been a long time.
Likewise with yours too.
You're obviously enjoying yourself over there in the Bahamas. And, I wish I was there too.
Funny enough, I haven't got a tan yet though. I don't know what it is.
Nice. All right then, I'm going to play a little bit of theme tune. This has been the longest pre-title sequence in the history of JBR. Play some theme tune, and then I will be joined by Brian and Jack for some more No Time to Die chatter. And what I will say is, there will be a spoiler warning at some point for those of you who've avoided the trailers and all that kind of stuff. So there's nothing to worry about until you hit that moment. So you'll hear a spoiler warning. And like I say, I've not gone deep on anything the tabloids have said. So if you've watched the trailers, that's as far as it goes. Basically, we're not talking about anything that's leaked or anything like that. So there we go. All right then. Nice. Chris,
yes.
We'll see you soon, mate.
See you soon. And take care, everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Bye.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
Bond. James
Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British end up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Pussy. As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down, 007. Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Gentlemen, it's been a long time, but finally, here we are. How you doing? I'm going to start by welcoming good old-fashioned Brian Dobson. How you doing, mate?
Very well, very well. How are you doing, Tom?
Good stuff. I'm also doing very well. And Mr. Lugo, Mr. Jack Lugo, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. It's been a while. I've missed the podcast.
Me too, man. It feels good to be back, man. It's been nice to have a rest, but it's also good to be back. And we will, hopefully, be joined by JW shortly. Dan Gale was going to be on today, but he had something come up at the last minute, so he won't be joining us. But JW's got some builders in, and they're running a little bit late, so he's going to jump on as soon as he can. So he's going to pop up at some point during today's podcast. But there we go. So I suppose the first thing we need to talk about is No Time to Die, isn't it? It's been a little while. I think the last podcast we did was May, I think, or early June, and thought, okay, let's have the summer off. And then it's been a little bit touch and go, hasn't it, with the old COVID? And it's like, what's going to happen? Are we going to get it next month or November, I should say? Do you think there's going to be another delay? What's going on? Brian Dobson.
Well, so much been happening, hasn't there? My guess is yes, we are going to go with November.
Okay.
But I think it's going to be a little bit possibly a subdued affair. I think, we can effectively say that all the cinemas, all the theatres are going to be showing it on maybe all the screens because there's not really a great deal out else at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but socially distanced viewing is going to be difficult. I do think we're all systems go for it, but I think if they knock it back further, then you're going to come up against all kinds of lesser franchises next year. And, I just don't see the point in doing that, really. We've had too many delays as it is, so I think it's time to go for it.
Mr. Lugo, what are your thoughts? Do you think we're going to get it in November? Do you think there might be another delay? What's going on?
Well, for the longest time, we thought there was going to be another delay. And then the marketing campaign sort of ramped up again very recently. So over the summer, we were all kind of expecting another delay. And then about, end of August, beginning of September, the marketing campaign started ramping up. And then almost all the marketing materials seemed to emphasize the only in cinemas in November. So I think they are going to move forward and sort of follow along what Tenet, the way that Tenet was released.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they're just going to release it in markets where they can, where the local governments have the theaters open. And in those markets where the theaters are not open, I guess it'll just be a waiting game.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Heaven forbid, but if I was in charge, it's a sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, isn't it? It's a really tough one because it's like I think you said it to me yesterday, Brian, on the phone, is that if they'd have just kept into that Valentine's Day release date, 14th of February, they'd have just sailed in at the last minute and we'd have just cleared it and it would have been all right.
Definitely.
But now it's like, if you go in November, I can't see how it's going to be the huge blockbuster that it needs to be, because not only, even if everything is open, right, which is questionable, even if it is all open, are people going to feel okay about going to the cinema? I've not been to the cinema when Tenet came out or anything, so I've literally not been to since all this kicked off.
Yeah.
Have you been, Jack? Have you been to the movies at all?
No, and I'm actually. I was going to say, even here in New Jersey where I live, the theaters were recently reopened, or allowed to be reopened by the governor, but I don't feel like it's safe, and it's a very difficult decision for me. But I cannot see myself going to the theater in November if they follow through with the release. I live with family members who are in the vulnerable group, and I just don't want to take that risk because, if the worst were to happen, if someone were to get sick, I have that feeling in the back of my head that maybe they got sick because I went to see a Bond movie. It would just be something that I wouldn't want to do.
Would it be worth it though, Jack? That's the question. Would it be worth it if the film's that good,
No, I have to make the responsible choice here,
of course,
and sort of wait. And that's if they follow through, because remember they were about a month away from releasing in April, and then they delayed. So everyone was expecting them to go forward with the April release, and then in March, the beginning of March, that's when they announced the delay. So we're about around the same time frame now, almost a month away from the November release. So we'll see what happens. And then obviously a number of other films have also delayed. You have Black Widow recently delaying, and a lot of other tentpole releases have moved back to 2021. So I think it's still a possibility that there may be another delay, but I think what's going on, though, too, is that MGM, the studio, has been in a weakened position for a number of years. Until recently, they couldn't distribute their own films. So I think they desperately need some kind of return on this film. And then, as you know, MGM partnered with Annapurna to create the distribution company United Artists Releasing, and that's the distribution company that's releasing No Time to Die here in the United States, and then internationally it's being released by Universal. So there may be some kind of conflict between MGM and Universal as to whether or not they can afford to wait. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's a business decision, no doubt. It's just 100%. Everyone has to calculate, and sort of be informed, make an informed decision as to whether or not you feel it's safe to see it wherever you are.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's like Brian touched on just now. If you were to put it back to, say, I don't know, March or something, or April, then you're going head to head with everything that's been held back, all those big, massive tentpole movies. But if you do manage to time it right and you're the one film that's going out, you might, pull something out of the bag. And I guess that's what they're going for, because if Bond is the only option that you can see, or the only option anybody really wants to see at the cinema in November, then you could potentially make a killing. Even so, I can't see it making as much money as it would do normally, though. Yeah. You know what I mean? I feel like it's just destined to come up short, and that's what worries me, man.
Totally. Sorry, Jack, go on.
That's okay. Well, the film has about an over $300 million budget. So Tenet was in that same ballpark too. And, from what I can tell, the returns on Tenet haven't been substantial enough to really have justified that release. So it is a bit of a surprise that they are going to move.
Yeah. I think my concern is definitely not the look of the film, not the, I know we will come on to that in a minute, and the cinematography, the style of the film, is the box office. And I don't see how we're going to get around that, to be honest, because something else has gone through my head where perhaps it would be re-released again. So we'll go for a release in November, re-release it again in, I don't know, February, March, April for another bite of the cherry. I think that's a possibility. But, at the end of the day, box office has got to be affected here somewhere along the line.
One thing to also factor in is the marketing costs, because it does cost money to every time they market a movie. And they already had a marketing campaign for the April release, and they've just restarted a marketing campaign for this November release. So if they were to delay it again, push it back to 2021, or if they were to sort of go with the November release and then re-release it in 2021, that's more money that they have to spend in order to promote the film, market the film again.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I guess what I would do if I was in charge, once again, heaven forbid if I was in charge, but if I was, I think I'd hold it back. And as a fan as well, I can't quite believe I'm saying it, but I think I'd want them to hold it back as well. Because there's at the same time, it's like we're not going to get anything like a normal premiere. There's not going to be the crowds of people outside the Albert Hall and all that excitement and buzz. That can't happen in November, surely. And I did see, I forget the dude's name now, the dude that trains Daniel, his personal trainer. He made an Instagram post when he was at Pinewood. And he made some sort of comment like that maybe the premiere would be happening there or something. He sort of implied it. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what he said. But that wouldn't surprise me if they did like a very small and intimate premiere in Pinewood. I guess that's all you can do under the circumstances. I don't know if that's true. It's just what the impression I got from that Instagram post. And I'm like, damn it, man. We've waited so long for this film. When it happens, I want it to happen right, and I don't want it to be this weird sort of like strange experience seeing the new Bond, So I would hold it back if I was in charge. Jack, would you hold it back if you held the keys?
There's that sense of community that we have within this kind of band. That when a new film gets released, obviously, those of us who live in different parts of the world, we can't all see it together. But when for the April release, before the pandemic hit, I was organizing a trip for like anyone, JBR listeners who are in the New York, kind of New Jersey area. And I was very much looking forward to that, and actually watching the film, sitting there with fellow Bond fans, and and now I was going to go with my wife. I had 2 tickets already bought, so there's that feeling of, obviously there's the anticipation of whenever a new film is released, but there's also that sense of like, well, gee, what are my fellow friends, Bond fans, gonna think of this film? What are their thoughts about it? And it's like we're not all going to have that experience. I mean, obviously, if they do release in November, a certain a lot of you will be seeing it. A number of will be, I won't, and other fans will sort of hold off as well. So it's like we can't all have that discussion, because obviously it's spoilers, and I mean, it's tough. I mean,
I mean, there we have it. Right there, Jack Lugo, hardcore Bond fan. I mean, look at what the man's wearing. He's got a Majesty's t-shirt on. He's got a No Time to Die poster on the wall. And he's saying that he's not going to go when it comes out in November. So if that's the case, then it's like, damn it, that's not a good recipe for a winner, is it? That's the scary thing. And you're not going to be alone in that decision, Jack. There's going to be lots of people who feel exactly the same. So that's the concerning thing. Dobson, you've just been handed the keys to Eon. You're in charge. What do you do?
I go for a November launch, and here's why. We've had there's too much egg on the face. It's as simple as that. We were going to go with a Christmas 19 release. It didn't happen. We were going to go with a Valentine's Day release. It didn't happen. We were going to go with an April the 3rd release. It didn't happen. We're now being penciled in with a November the 12th release. It's got to happen, even if it's not the full works of what we would expect it to be in terms of opening. It's got to be then, because if we delay it further, then it looks like, do we really know what we're doing? And that's my take on it.
I mean, the film was a little bit messy even before the pandemic, because we had the whole change with directors. Daniel got injured, and the tabloids have been skewing this film ever since it started production. So it's a tough situation probably for Eon, because they obviously want to have the Bond branding and the image out there without the negativity. But, it's sort of become impossible at this point. I mean, I think the way they overcome that, though, is just releasing a great film, which I think that of everything I've seen, I'm very encouraged about it. I really want to see this film. But, obviously, I have to take, I have to make a responsible choice at this point.
Absolutely, of course you do. So speaking of the film, we will get to our thoughts on the film and the second trailer that came out recently and all that in a bit. And we will put like a little spoiler version. So if you're nervous, we're going to say something, don't worry. We will do a big old spoiler warning. Not that there's going to be much spoiler talk, because I don't know a lot. I've purposefully danced around it. And I want, especially with everything going on, I want to go in as clean as I can with all the delays and all that. So I've tried to avoid as much as I can. I have watched the trailers, but I haven't gone in and out of all the tabloid stuff that's leaked out and all that kind of stuff, whether that's true or not, who even knows. But so don't worry, don't panic. We'll sound the alarm when anything remotely spoilerific might be said. You don't have to worry about that. So yeah, man, I think it's a tricky one. Like I said, no matter what you do, it's a tricky one. You either go up against every other tentpole film in the world that's been held back, or you try and strike out on your own and be the only show in town and hope for the best. And that's clearly what they're going for. See, we had a little... the reason why JBR was a little bit later coming back than we thought was because I was firmly under the thought that, shit, man, it's going to be delayed again. If you listen to everything that people are saying, it seems like it's going back the wrong way with COVID and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like it's only a matter of time until they put that back, especially with all the other films being put back. I was convinced that we wouldn't get No Time to Die in November. But then, Jack, like you say, all the marketing starts rolling up. And I'm like, all right, maybe we are getting it in November. And we were going to come back with Die Another Day, believe it or not, had the film been put back. But obviously it wasn't. So we're like, all right, we'll save Die Another Day till after No Time to Die. So there we have it. So... should we talk a bit about the trailer and stuff and the posters and the state of play of what we think about No Time to Die at the moment? Should we crack on? Okay, it's that time. If you've been avoiding everything, trailers, news, everything, then I'd probably stop listening to the podcast right now and skip the rest of the show. And we'll be back next week with something that doesn't contain any spoilers whatsoever, so you'll be able to enjoy the whole episode. All right, here we go. Let's get cracking. All right, let's do it. So let's start with the posters. Now, I mean, I'm not going to start. I'm going to let Jack take the lead on this one. How are you feeling about the posters?
Yeah, the official posters for No Time to Die have not impressed me very much. I know they actually released a new one recently, and that's going to be the cover art for the soundtrack. And it's just Daniel. It's a photograph of him, and it's very much. There's nothing to be excited about in terms of the poster. So I found a bit of poster art that I kind of enjoyed. This artist Mark Murphy, he sells these prints on his social media. He goes by the Twitter handle Thrice Champion on Twitter and Instagram. So this is. I wish we can get a poster that looked more like this,
dude. Don't we? Yeah.
But unfortunately, we got the posters that we got from the official site. So it is what it is.
The tricky thing is, man, the posters that we've seen for No Time to Die, there's been one that I would say is a good official one, and it was maybe the third one they came out that was like. It was the outline of Daniel with some action going on within the sort of silhouette of Daniel. That's a really rubbish way to describe it. But that was like, oh, all right, that's a decent poster. But then all the other ones seem to be the weirdest choices, man. Like the first little teaser we saw with like that pale blue background and all those, like the ones on the motorbike and that last one, it's just sort of, it seems so thrown together like that it's just, that image is all right, let's stick that on there and put No Time to Die on there and call it done. And it just doesn't seem like there's much thought going into these. And the crazy thing is, like you point out there, Jack, there's so many really good fan ones that really do stoke the imagination. And it's like, why is that happening? You know? And I think like some of the, I guess, recent films that I think have done good posters that have that old school flavor as the recent Star Wars ones. Whatever you think about the films themselves, the posters do have that sort of like a modern, but still have that classic old school Star Warsy feel to them. And I would love them to do something like that for Bond. But these sort of like cold images of Bond just standing there with the title of the film just seems to be so uninspiring, you know? I don't know. What do you think, Brian?
Exactly that. I just echo exactly what you and Jack have just said. I just long for the old montage images, lots going on, the classic, holding the gun pose. Yeah. So much going on within that poster, and it's just that we just don't get them these days. The one Jack referred to for the soundtrack album, I thought that image of Daniel looked quite striking, quite a good one, but overall, nothing in the marketing as far as posters goes particularly grabbed me.
Underwhelming. I tell you what would be the great not a great poster, but a good one, is that very first still we had of Daniel buttoning his jacket walking away from the Aston Martin. Like if you had that with it's the same sort of idea. It's just a photo of Daniel. He looks like such a badass in that photo, man. And I'm like, when I see that, and I'm excited. These other ones, I'm like, Daniel he either looks a little bit confused, he looks like he's left the gas on in some of them. Do you know what I mean? He's like, have I left the cooker on or not? I don't know. Did I lock the front door? And it's like, it's not that striking image that you want from your Bond. That image of him walking away from the Aston Martin buttoning his jacket, I think he looks the business. And if they'd have just put that out as the poster, I'd have been like, all right, I'm game on for that. What would you say, I've got a firm choice, what would you say was the last great Bond poster? Brian, you can start.
That's a great question. The first thing that hits me when you say that, without thinking about it too deeply, is GoldenEye.
That's a good one. I like that. I used to have that on my bedroom wall when I was 13.
There's a lot going on in that. That was the initial thought. Certainly, there's nothing of recent that I think of being particularly outstanding. I'm going to go with that.
All right, GoldenEye. What about you, Jack?
Casino. I think the one where he's at the poker table.
That was the teaser poster, wasn't it? Where he's sitting at the poster, he's sitting at the table. The Walther's on there. The on the table on the green baize, the casino chips. That is a great one. I do find that very exciting. That's for sure. If I'm gonna choose like a balls out poster that I want to sit and look at all day, I think the one that gets my vote is the last great Bond poster is Living Daylights. That one where you've got the quad where you've got the gun barrel pattern and all the action happening within the gun barrel.
Yeah, that is a good choice actually.
That is a great one, man. And I mean, how difficult is it to do something like that? You know what I mean? It's like when we've got fan-made art that is in that vein, like we see on Jack's wall there. It's like, why aren't we getting that? I don't know whether it's a thing where they just consider that to be a dated thing, that movie posters don't look like that anymore. I don't know. It's a curious thing. But I've always said like the most of the Daniel posters to me look like menswear ads. Like you open up a gentleman's magazine and there's a poster for some sort of menswear line and there's a picture of some dude and it has that feel to it rather than a movie poster.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a shame. But hey ho, you never know. They might mix it up when the next dude takes over, whenever that may be, and they might, bring that.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll ever go back to the painted style.
No, I don't think they would.
I don't think they ever will. Which is a shame because I mean, we all really enjoy that.
Yeah, man. I think, like I say about those newer Star Wars ones, they are obviously much more modern looking. They're not painted like that, but they sort of have that feel almost that. It still has that sort of DNA to it, which I really appreciate. So, yeah, man. What I'd give for like another Live and Let Die poster or something, or one of those old posters, man. You can sit there and look at that and notice details that you've never even noticed before, even though it's been on the wall for 10 years.
I think Live and Let Die is my favorite poster of the entire series.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the one that hits the mark for me.
All right, then. So posters get the thumbs down. Let's talk about the trailer 2, as it's known as on YouTube. That now, I almost didn't watch it because I thought that first trailer that came out, I've seen enough. I'm excited. I still don't really know anything. It's not giving anything away too much, so I'm happy. I don't need to see anything more, and I almost didn't watch it. And I thought, actually, I'm going to watch it, and I watched it, and it was quite interesting to see how they made it so different, but still not give much away either. And it was nice. And there was I watched it again just before we started recording this, and I was getting the old chills down the spine and stuff from certain things, and it sort of got me a little bit fired up again to watch the film. And I'm very excited about it. So Jack, why don't you lead the way, man? What did you think about trailer number 2?
Well, I remember we had a chat on Facebook before you just you were asking me whether or not you should watch it. I was like, I wasn't sure because I didn't want to be that guy. It's like, oh, go ahead and watch it, and then you would have came back to me and was like, I wish I didn't quite see that. So I was unsure what direction to sort of lead you in, but I'm glad you watched it, and I had a great reaction to it too. I actually like this trailer better than the first full trailer that we got. There was more action. It seemed to move a bit quicker. It got to the point of what they advertising the kind of the best shots. So I really the flow of it I think was better than that first one. So I actually really like what they did with the second trailer.
Very nice, Brian. What are your thoughts? What did you feel when you first watched trailer number 2?
Absolutely loved it. I loved the first one, but the second one really got me going, and for exactly the same reasons what Jack just said. It just seemed, pacier, sharper. There was extra little sort of nuggets there that I wasn't expecting. I much preferred the second trailer. I don't know if that's just down to the editing style. The only thing that concerned me, and I think it's probably just in from an editing point of view, is it going to be action in the style of Tomorrow Never Dies, or are we going to have a little bit more dialogue based?
You know what, that's always a concern of mine, right? Because I remember the first time I felt that feeling that you're just talking about was Quantum of Solace when I saw that trailer.
Yeah.
And I remember being like Casino is probably the best Bond film we've ever had, and it's amazing. And then Quantum was about to come out, and you had that trailer with them dragging the chair across, and then Mr. White saying, "You don't know anything about us," and Bond's sort of like bristling on screen and stuff. And I was like, oh man, this is the Bond film I've always wanted. This is so exciting that he's going to go and kick some ass and have a proper revenge mission.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the trailer kicks in, and it's like Bond on a bike, Bond in a plane, Bond in a car, Bond doing this, Bond doing that. And it was like, I'm a bit worried, I'm a bit apprehensive that it's just going to be that. And it's going to be car chase after plane chase after bike chase after boat chase. And I guess some might say that it kind of is that, especially compared to Casino. So I know what you mean. I know what you're saying. But what my hope is that there's some stuff going on in the plot there that we don't know about, and they're keeping under wraps.
Yeah.
And that we're seeing all the action, and we're not seeing that stuff. Because I tell you what, man, there's something that makes me scratch my chin. And like I say, I'm not somebody who's gone deep down into the weeds of what the tabloids have said and all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to avoid those spoilerific things. But the trailer is fair game for me. So there's that one line in the trailer where it says, "The mission that changes everything."
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, that's a bit intriguing, isn't it?
That's the tagline.
Yeah, that's the tagline. And I'm like, what is that then? What changes? Why does it change everything? Because we had in Spectre, obviously, that thing where there's all the links back to the previous Daniel films, that Blofeld was behind the whole thing. And to me, that's the thing that changes everything. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then there's something in this that also changes everything. And I'm like, well, what's that then? Is it something to do with Blofeld? Is it not? Is it something completely different? And that makes me excited, because I feel like there's something exciting plot-wise that's yet to be revealed, which I'm excited about. And I've read that the film exists on like one hard drive, or it might be two hard drives that are in a vault somewhere. And even Daniel had to get on a plane to go and watch it or something. So it seems like they've kept it pretty locked down, and it's not going to leak out or anything, which is nice. But yeah, man. So it does make me speculate a lot. What were you going to say there, Jack? I feel like you had a thought that you were going to share.
Okay, so I'm not sure if either one of you checked out the official Bond channels actually created a podcast.
That's right.
Which is very 21st century of them, because their approach to promoting Bond films is sometimes lagging. Because last time expected they had these video vlogs, which were not all that impressive. But this year they actually put together a podcast, which will be a 6-episode series. So the first episode actually just debuted. And one of the things I was going to say when you were talking about the concern about whether or not there's too much action and not enough plot, not enough dialogue, this seems, everything in that first episode seems to indicate that it's a very psychological, emotional journey. But there's one thing that kind of left an impression on me when they were, Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson were talking about Cubby Broccoli and how much Cubby Broccoli held on Her Majesty's Secret Service in actually very high esteem. Like the actual screenplay of it, he felt that it was one of the best Bond films. And then he also regrettably never got to film Casino Royale because they didn't have the rights to Casino Royale. Mm-hmm. So towards the end of that podcast, Barbara Broccoli says that if Cubby were alive today, he would feel about No Time to Die the same way he feels about Majesties, and that left an impression on me. So that sets the bar really high.
Hello. All right. Very nice. That does set the bar very high. I'm going to have to listen to that, because as we're recording it, that podcast just came out today, I think. So I've not actually had a chance to listen to it, but I will after we finish recording. Whoa, that is a statement and a half, man. Ooh.
So I feel like, even though there appears to be a lot of action, that it's going to unfold in a way that that really tells a very a story that's going to engage us, and that's going to for us Bond fans, that's going to give us a sort of something that we've never seen before, but also give us plenty that we like to kind of chew on, but also give us the Fleming aspect, the kind of the core of the character, and the things that we love about Bond are going to be there, but also it's going to be something new, and there is going to be some kind of emotion The emotional aspect is important to the story. So there's going to be some kind of story craft there that we're going to appreciate.
All right. Interesting stuff. That makes me even more excited then. That definitely bodes well. That's very nice indeed. Now, I've got some pointers that I noted down when I jotted down when I watched the trailer just before we started recording. There are some random things that really please me about it. And there's one thing that scares me a little bit. So I'm going to start with my list of things that please me. They're random things, it must be said, but it just, for some reason, makes a little tickle go down my spine, and I don't know why. There's that little bit where M is right up to the camera and he's like, "Come on, Bond, where are you?" I don't know why, but I find that highly arousing. There's that thing like we discussed recently not recently now, but on a podcast where Ralph had his review of the Tomorrow Never Dies pre-title sequence about how when you don't see Bond and you just hear the one side of the conversation throughout the whole Tomorrow Never Dies pre-titles, how cool that is, and how Bond's clearly out there doing something that you don't quite see, and you know he's got the upper hand, and you know he's doing something cool. As ridiculous as this sounds, right? The fact that M's saying, "Come on, Bond, where are you?" just tells me Bond is in a tight spot, and he's going to pull something out of the bag at the last minute, and it's going to be really cool. And I've told myself that story in my head just from like half a second of footage. But that pleases me. Do you get a similar reaction to that, or am I just a lunatic? What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, totally. I felt the same thing go through me. I thought, yeah, there's something going on there. Yeah. I want to know what that is. Yeah, definitely.
Good God. So that's number one. Number two, I do enjoy Paloma. Very nice, it must be said. And I like the little gag that we got this time where he turns up and he's a bit, dressed a little bit, shoddily, and she hands him the dicky bow and the suit in the suitcase thing, and then obviously he puts it on and he has a gunfight. That to me, that's a nice little. That shows me that there's going to be some humor in this, like the old school. That's like a. Dare I say it? That could be like a Roger moment or even a Pierce moment. You know what I mean? Where Bond's a bit bedraggled, but you can't have a gunfight with Bond being too bedraggled. Sometimes you need him to be in a suit with a dicky bow.
One thing I've picked up from the trailer, certainly the second trailer, is how much Daniel seems to be enjoying himself. And there's some nice one-liners. There's a few eyebrow raisers. There's a few, lighter touches, and that's good. That's good. I'm all for that.
Yeah, man. I that's one of the things that I've taken away is that that flavor still seems to be in there. Like for me personally, I know a lot of people are going to think I'm a lunatic for saying what I'm about to say, but I thought Skyfall was all right. It wasn't a favorite of mine, and it's a good film. I'm not knocking it, but the flavor of it, I don't want to see too much mopey Bond. You know what I mean? I want to see Bond being a badass. I want to see the quips. And like I've said before, I thought that wasn't Daniel's bag. That he was just the serious one.
And we're of the same opinion on that one. Aren't we? So.
And then we get Spectre, and there's more of that old school light-hearted touch. And I thought he did so well in that. I was very happy with that. With that vibe, that very much felt classic old school Bond. And I think that vibe is carrying over into this one as well. I'm definitely getting an updated but old school Bond feel with just the right amount of humor. Hopefully, that's what I'm getting from the trailer. Jack is very silent. He looks like he's about to burst. What do you think? Are you completely in agreement or in a disagreement?
I completely agree. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to sort of balance the seriousness. I'm kind of with you there with Daniel being sort of, sometimes overly gloomy. But I think obviously the tone of his films, that's what they are. And, I think what they've tried to do with his run of films is obviously they want it to be grounded. They want it to be gritty. But it's nice to get that balance sometimes where you can inject a little bit of humor, but it has to be done the right way. I mean, I think you brought up on the podcast a few times towards the end of Skyfall when he says, "I fell in deep water," that just didn't land. And it was just not the right moment for that kind of quip. in the film. So I think that it's a tricky thing, but I think you have to sort of balance the humor with the grittiness. And it looks, I mean, obviously, we've only seen the trailers for No Time to Die, but it looks like there could be potentially a good, fair balance there.
Yeah, I definitely think there is that. And I tell you what else, man, I really like the look of Safin. I think he really does look like a classic Bond villain. And I think that is such a difficult thing to pull off. I don't think it's easy to make a Bond villain because you've got so many sort of action movies and whatever that's been made these days where there's so many villains, but a Bond villain is something special that exists in its own little category. And it's so difficult to make a Bond villain who is A, memorable, but B, not too exaggerated because that's a bit too old school and doesn't fit in with the vibe. And I feel like he fits in quite nicely. He looks like a Looney Tune. He's got this sort of disfigurement thing going on. And some of those lines, man, the lines of dialogue, he sounds like a proper megalomaniac Looney Tune.
Yeah.
And, I'm excited by him. Also, obviously, he's a banging actor as well, man. He really is the real deal, isn't he? So I'm excited for him, which begs the question. There was a lot of speculation that he was going to be some sort of reinvented Dr. No at one point. Now, where are you sitting on that now? Do you think there might be some sort of Blofeldian style reveal where it turns out that he is Dr. No? Or do you think that was all bollocks? And maybe he's inspired a bit by Dr. No. Maybe there's some Dr. No flavors in there, but he's his own man. What do you think, Brian?
B, it was all bollocks. No, I just don't get the Dr. No thing. Don't understand. Why would you want to go back and do that? It's been done. Yeah. No, not for me. I don't buy that. I might be completely surprised when I find out that it is, but no, I don't really buy that one.
I tell you, I can understand where the flavors come from, where the suggestion of it comes from, because his base. I mean, dude, there's some very Ken Adam looking stuff in this trailer as well, isn't there, man? That also pleases me a lot. I get very excited about that. And it's like I get there's a little bit of a Dr. No vibe to his lair, and dare I say it, in him a little bit. I don't know, but what about you, Jack? What do you think?
I think maybe yes, there could be elements that are inspired by Dr. No. I mean, certainly, like you have the people in like the radiation suits sometimes in the background. If you've seen the trailers, that kind of seems Dr. No inspired. And then the room that he's in, the base, the underground layer, there are certain elements of it that remind me of Dr. No. So I think that's where some of the fan speculation about that came from. But I don't think that they're going to go full on and say, okay, Safin is really Dr. No. I think it's really just those are elements that they put there so that Bond fans can sort of spot them as sort of like Easter eggs. It's like, this is what inspired that.
Yeah, and I think that's the right move too. I don't think it's time to. Maybe at some point they do start remaking the old classics, but I don't think that time is now with Daniel's last film. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me. So yeah, I'm in agreement as well. I feel like maybe Dr. No was like the sort of when you look at a film and they like we drew inspiration from that classic, we drew inspiration from Majesties for X or Y or whatever. I feel like with the Jamaica setting, very sort of Fleming-y feeling to what I'm seeing in a lot of those things. I feel like maybe they were like, let's just go back to Dr. No and just get some of that little flavor in this as a little flavor, for want of a better word.
Is it that the flavor of Dr. No I thought we got in the final act of Spectre, when he visits the Blofeld's lair towards the end. I thought that felt very Dr. No like. So I don't see why we should do it again, really.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Now, what do you think about this, right? This is something that's been talked about on the podcast before. What do you think about the mission that changes everything is the whole Rogue One ending, where the end of the film is Bond going into M's office and they throw the manila envelope down on the thing and it's the beginning of the Dr. No mission. Maybe, it would be so tricky to do because obviously in Dr. No, he's getting his Walther and he's been using his Walther, so they can't do that bit. Yeah. But what if they did mangle some weird alternate universe thing in where the end of the film is him going off to start the Dr. No mission. What would that excite you, or do you think that's bananas? Jack, you can lead the way on this one, brother.
I don't think that would be a wise thing to do, but I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they decided to do that, but I don't think it's the right call. Yeah. I mean, obviously, with this date being presumably Daniel's last film, I mean, and pretty much everything seems to indicate that, you know, he's not coming back after this. They're going to recast Bond. I just don't see how you can say, okay, now we're. I mean, obviously, you could and just say, okay, well, in the Daniel Craig universe, you know, in these, you know, it continues, and obviously he goes on and completes all these missions that we're already familiar with. You could technically do it, but I just don't think it'll work. That's just my
fair enough. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not keen on that idea. I just think that screams of we've run out of ideas.
That's a fair point.
I just think why go back? I can see what you're meaning. The manila envelope lands on the desk with strangways on it or something like that. Yeah. But it's interesting. But I just think no, we've been there. We've been there.
For a while. I thought maybe strangways was going to be in this film, but I don't think he is.
Fair play. So. Yeah, man. It's because it's with these little sort of twisty things, these little surprises, it's very hard, especially when it comes to Bond, to keep them under wraps. And I remember when I went to see Rogue One, I was like, okay, this is a decent movie. I didn't love Rogue One. It must be. I know a lot of people say that's their favorite one of the recent Star Wars movies. I didn't love it, but dude, that whole film was worth it just for the last 2 minutes or whatever it was, because I had no idea they were going to tie it in that close to the original Star Wars, like literally ending with the opening scene of that was such a masterstroke that was like, whoa. When I saw that, I was very taken aback. Maybe I was the only one, I don't know. And I do like that sort of idea, but at the same time, because there's so many loose ends that don't really make sense. Not that really seems to have mattered in the Bond series, it must be said. They don't seem to worry too much about a lot of those loose strands. But yeah, maybe it would be, I don't know, part of me would love it, but then a part of me would be like, it's a bit forced and a bit silly maybe. So the question is, right, is Daniel a different universe Bond, or is he pre-Connery? I don't know. That's the question. I'm guessing they don't even know, you know, Eon and whoever's making the films. I'm guessing they don't know. So that begs the question then, right? The question that must be asked is, how do you feel now about what's going to happen with everything that's happened? What do you think that's going to happen post No Time to Die? Because here's where I was before the shit hit the fan. I was thinking, market it as Daniel's last one, absolutely 100%. But I also thought there was a little bit of something going on where Daniel would say, yeah, this is my last one, this is my last one. And then at that sort of launch event in Jamaica they asked him about it being his last one, and he was like, well, yeah, no, that's what people are saying. And I was like, gotcha. Like, I know what game you're playing. You've been taking a leaf out of Roger's book. And you tell them it's your last one, and then they go, well, how about we just give you $100 million to make one more? And they go, all right, then I'll come back. And you'd be silly not to. If you were Bond and you'd been as successful as Daniel, you'd be silly not to do that. So you have to do it. So I was like, that's blatantly what Daniel's doing. That's got to be his game plan, you know. It's what I would do. It's what you boys would both do as well in his shoes. Now, obviously, the shit hit the fan. So many delays. We had the whole COVID thing still ongoing, delayed premieres. It's like it's such an unknowable entity at this point that I feel like if he was considering coming back for one more, or even if Eon were considering doing one more, I feel like maybe this must be so exhausting for them that they're like, you know what, fuck it, let's bow out after 25. So the question is the future, man. What happens next? Like, if it comes out, and let's say it does okay, or even if it does better than expected, I can't see it. I feel like it can't be another $1 billion Bond, right? As much as we want it to be, under the circumstances, even if the film is great, under the circumstances of The Shape of the World, it can't do those sorts of numbers, I don't think, unless something amazing happens. I don't know. So based on that, what do we do after this? Do you think they'll sell? Do you think there's going to be a massive gap? Do you think they'll recast and get back on the horse with somebody new? Do you think they might drag him back for one more? I don't know. I'm undecided. So Jack, what do you think, mate?
Okay, yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've written a few pieces for a few months back about what to do, what the future of Bond might look like. So I think the one thing that we all have to sort of consider is that MGM, which owns what was Harry's share of the Bond franchise, was looking to be acquired before they began making No Time to Die. It was a weekend studio. It couldn't distribute its own films. They did finally partner up with Annapurna and created United Artists Releasing, so they are distributing No Time to Die. But prior to this, obviously, Sony was distributing the Bond films. So they were looking to be acquired before they began the production of No Time to Die. And I feel like maybe what they were doing is, hoping that No Time to Die would be successful enough so that it would boost their worth, their value, and a big time, someone like Amazon or Apple would come along and acquire them, and then they would own what was previously Harry Saltzman's share of Bond, and then they would have to partner with Eon, in order to continue producing the movies. What happens now that with the COVID situation and with No Time to Die most likely not earning the kind of box office that it would have earned in a normal period is anyone's guess. But I think we're not going to see a Bond film for a long time. I mean, probably, because I unless someone acquires it, unless Amazon or Apple or Disney, which I know a lot of people don't want, but one of those companies acquires MGM and says, okay, right, we're going to start making Bond films, every 2 years you're going to see a Bond film now because we now own half of the property, and obviously Eon would have to obviously work with them and produce the films. So a lot of it just sort of depends on the fate of MGM, which we don't know. So it's tough because if it does okay, and if it does see some kind of a decent return, then maybe they'll just wait until the COVID, the pandemic is over and start over, and maybe not seek to be acquired until they can get back on their feet. So that might delay things too. So a lot of it is all business, and it's just it's hard to anticipate what the outcome will be.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Yeah. What about you, Brian? What are your thoughts?
I think pretty much exactly what Jack says. It's all business, really, and there's so many variables there. I think it depends on if it goes to a new studio, what their vision of Bond is going to be. I personally think it possibly will, but with Eon being taken on as almost like a partnership, if you want. If I have to take a punt on it, I'd say yes, they will start again with a new actor, and this will be Daniel's last one, regardless of what the box office does. But I can see the arguments both ways, because if they are going to throw a lot of money at Daniel to come back for what would be his last one, then I can see that happening. But my gut feeling is no, we're going to wipe the slate clean.
And do you think that's going to take a long time? Do you think, if you were to throw... Because what I've noticed some people on Twitter recently have really listened to the 30 Days of Spectre episodes of JBR, and we're saying how we were speculating back then, we're probably going to get the next episode. The next film is going to be 2018, blah, 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 or whatever. And then now look at us, 5 years on and all that stuff. So for future people who are in the future now, listening back to us, and it's 10 years ago, or whatever it is, right? What are your thoughts? Predict me a year when we're going to see Bond 26, Brian. See if any of us can nail it.
2024.
2024. Okay, Brian, I'm going to write this down so I've got a record of it. Brian says 2024. Jack, what do you say?
I'm going to go with 2025.
Oh, okay, 2025.
Yeah.
Now, it ain't going to be 2021. It's definitely not going to be 2022.
Which is a shame because 2022 would have been the 60th anniversary.
It would have been, and that would have been nice.
Yeah.
2023,
the perfect time to release.
I can't see them getting their stuff together before then. I guess I'm gonna have. I tell you what, I'm going to go 2027. That's going to be my prediction.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah. But do you know what, though? You think about it, man. Spectre came out in 2015, right? And it's here we are 5 years later. We never would have predicted that, you know. Remember how painful it was between License to Kill and GoldenEye. That 6-year break was almost like this legendary gap where it was like, oh, remember the dark times, you know. And it's almost that every time now, you know. So I feel like if this is Daniel's, and that if that's Daniel's last one, truly, you got to let the world reset and go back to what it was before, or whatever the new normal is, or whatever people say. Oh man, and the business side of things is what always fucks it up, isn't it? There's always that element of deals being made and all that kind of stuff. I feel like it's going to be a while.
That's cutting me like a knife. 2027. Good God.
Hopefully, I'm wrong. I hope it's Brian that's right. That it's 2024. That would be nice. But dude, it's
and that begs the question too as to who they can cast as Bond, because you know that person, if it is 2027, has got to be in their 20s now. You know.
Yeah. So okay, so there's another natural question, right? So let's say either of you two are right, and it's 4 or 5 years from now before we get our next Bond film. Who are you casting in that one? Like Jack, if you go first.
If it's 2024.
Yep.
Okay. Well, my idea, I mean, I know, I would, it's hard. I don't want to, I mean, I think I could see Henry Cavill, but I at the same time, I feel like he's a safe choice. Like, I don't know how much he can really bring to the role. I think he'll do okay if he's given a great script, but I'm not 100% sold on him. I mean, the one thing I've always, you know, when Spectre was released, we had the rumors about Idris Elba, and obviously now age is a factor. But I did feel like at the time, you know, even in current times, he's what you can do is you can do like a one-off with Idris Elba and just have it either be one film or 2 films filmed back to back, and I think that would work too. So it really just depends. I mean, on a lot of factors. So I know a lot of people seem, you know, when we bring up Idris Elba, you know, the age thing seems to be. Kind of take him out of the running. But I feel like if you did it, if they were to do it somewhat quickly, that you could get like if you could tell one really great story, then it'll open the door and sort of, you know, that could work. But I think if you wanted to go a safer route, you can go with Henry Cavill.
All right, cool. Henry's definitely the safer route over Idris, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Brian, who are you casting, man? 2024.
Well, by 2024, I'll be about 32 by then. So I think I would be ready to do Don the Holster.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, my choice still is at this moment in time would be Aidan Turner, because I really can see him pulling the character off. But pulling the character off, I don't think so.
Okay.
But I think. If you're talking about that time, I really don't know of who. I don't know on that one. I really don't know.
Well, maybe it will be Brian Dobson. But is the world ready for a Geordie Bond? That's the question. Are they ready to put Fleming aside and embrace a Geordie Bond? We will find out. Indeed. Do you know who gets my vote? And I'm going to make Rory Cooper outraged as he's listening to this. My vote is 100% Cavill. And I know what people say. I know what they say. Like you said, Jack, there, he is a safe choice, right? And you know why he's a safe choice? Because he's the right choice. That's my thought. Yeah. And I know, I also get what people say in the sense that he can be a little bit stiff in certain things. But I think he's a little bit like the Brosnan, or maybe even the Roger, whereby they are meant to play one thing, right? He was born to play one thing. Brosnan was born to play Bond, man. 100%. And he did a bloody good job. Roger was born to be Roger, and that's what he excelled at, right? And I think if you put Cavill in the PPK, in the Bond shoes, if you give him the shoulder, you know what I'm trying to say. If you give Cavill the PPK, I think he will shine, man, and that will be the moment when he really sort of he has that right role, you know. Bond is meant for him, I think. And to me, I look around and I'm like, who else have we got? Aidan Turner, yes, I see it, right? When I watched And Then There Were None, that Agatha Christie thing, there was some very Bond-like things he did in there. He wears the dicky bow. Does he drink a vodka martini? Does he have a martini glass? I think he might do. But
cocktail, I think,
yeah, some sort of cocktail, and all the rest of it. And he definitely has that look. But I don't know whether he has the movie star charisma to carry a massive franchise. I don't know whether he's a TV guy or whether does he have that celebrity X Factor charisma to carry Bond? Now, equally, you could say the same about Cavill. Does he have that charisma? And I remember seeing some footage when they were promoting one of the Superman movies. It might have been the Batman Superman one. I can't remember which one it was. But they were promoting it, and he's literally stood there in Times Square with a Superman T-shirt on, and nobody recognized him or noticed him. They were just walking past him, and it was like a funny skit of like, look, there's literally Superman stood there with a Superman T-shirt on, and nobody gives a shit. And I'm like, well, I'm not sure that's a great advert for the film or him as that character. You know what I mean? And I'm like, equally, I will take that point that we've yet to see him ascend into something where he really carries something like that. So I don't know, but if I had to put my money down on Aidan Turner versus Henry Cavill, it goes to Cavill for me, I think, you know.
Yeah. I think that the Turner thing for me is just maybe a bit more from a purist's point of view, but I can see from a box office point of view of how Cavill would score over him.
He's got a little bit of Dalton flavour in him, hasn't he, old?
That's probably what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, he recently, I think, gave some sort of comment because he's promoting Enola Holmes, which was the film, the Netflix film where he plays Sherlock Holmes. And I think someone asked him, and he very much indicated that he would like to play Bond. Whether or not it'll be offered is a different story. And we all know the story that obviously he auditioned during Casino Royale, but he was too young at the time.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that nudges it as well is they do like to do that, don't they? It's like Brosnan missed out on Daylights, so they go back to Brosnan at the earliest opportunity and they bring him in. I feel like that's the same thing. If he was number 2 for Casino Royale, I feel like he's got to be sitting on the back burner, and they're like, when the time is right, we bring him in.
How old is Cavill now? How old is Henry Cavill?
Let me Google him. Right, let's have a butcher's. Cavill Henry age. Let me do it quickly. I know it always makes thrilling podcasting.
I'm just thinking if you're right with your 2027, how old is he going to be when they cast him?
Cavill is 37 years old.
Okay.
Shit,
I thought he was a bit older than that. Yeah,
He's 11 months younger than me to the day. Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's 37. So if it was 7 years, 44, you know, that's around the sort of time that, you know, you had your Brosnans and your Rogers starting off. So maybe, maybe it can happen. I don't know. Goodness me. Oh man, I hope it's not 2027. I hope Brian's right out of the three of us. But yeah. Now, I mentioned earlier, there's one thing about the No Time to Die trailer that worries me a little bit. Can you guess what it is? Either of you, jump in. It's basically something that happens that made me go, I'm not sure about that. Any thoughts?
Is it the Wet Nelly reference with the underwater plane?
Yes, it is. You nailed it in one.
That's what I was.
Yeah, I look at that and I'm like, okay, it gives me flashbacks to 2002 a little bit, and I'm okay with them being in a little plane, but the weird thing with the wings folding in and then it going underwater, I'm a bit like, and obviously it's CGI, so I always get nervous when I see that, don't I? So I'm like, I'm a bit apprehensive. What are your thoughts, Brian? Do you feel?
I was actually okay with that. I thought that looked all right, but I suppose it's how it's done in the bigger context. But when I saw that, I thought, I'm all right with that.
All right, Dobson's on board. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, I'm on board with it too. I mean, I obviously I know the tone of Daniel's films have been more of the grounded variety, so obviously that could sort of stick out. Yeah. But I'm okay with it. I think it's fair game. It doesn't bother me.
Okay. Either of you have any worries? Either of you, when you see that trailer, is there anything for you that sticks out as a bit of a where you're sucking a bit of breath and you're like, I'm a little bit worried about that? Any points at all?
For me, as good as she is, I think Lashana Lynch might sort of overshadow what Daniel's doing a bit. I think she might be almost a bit of a star of it. I mean, that's obviously, a good and bad in different ways, but I just think there was a few scenes where she might end up stealing it.
Interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that winds up, because there was that whole thing about her having the 007 number and all that kind of stuff, which I thought was quite a nice idea, actually. Because I feel like if Bond's retired, what happens to his number? Does he stay 007 forever, even though he's retired? And 30 years after he's died, is that still reserved because that was James Bond, or does somebody else take it? And I do think that's a nice idea. I know a lot of people freak the fuck out at that concept, but I'm like, I think that's a really nice rivalry. It would come back. She's got his fucking number, so he's got to show her up. And of course, he's gonna win at the end of the day in that little rivalry, And I dare say he will.
Well, there'll be a mutual respect between them.
Yeah, of course, there it is.
Yeah.
So there is that. But I think that's a nice idea. But okay, interesting point, Jack. Have you got any worries at all? Any apprehensive feelings?
No. I mean, I honestly, I think it would be a nice touch, like you said, if they did make Lashana Lynch's character 007. I honestly, I think if Bond got along with everyone, obviously like the rivalry between Bond and Q, that would be so boring if Q was just admiring Bond the whole time, and you need that little bickering, that little rivalry there. I mean, it sort of it makes it more enjoyable to watch, and we kind of live for those little bits of dialogue. So I'm fine with that. There's really nothing that I'm concerned about in terms of the film from the trailer perspective. I mean, I know the big worry from Purvis and Wade had said that they didn't know how to carry on doing a Bond film because of everything going on in the world. And in that podcast that they released recently, they did, the emphasis was always that, Bond needs to be contemporary, but it can't be overly topical. So, I mean, people, I think before they started, production on No Time to Die, were wondering, okay, are they going to mention things that are going on in the world today? Prior to obviously the pandemic, which, was before, but I mean, things going on, with in America with Trump and all that stuff. Are they going to go there? And it doesn't look like they are. I think they're going to avoid being political or topical and specifically, but they are going to try to be relevant and contemporary at the same time, and that's a very tricky thing. So it looks like from everything I've seen that they're really trying to accomplish that.
Yeah, I think that's what keeps it alive, isn't it? It's like there is that element of you always want Bond to lead the way, don't you? But at the same time, when you look back through the history, there is a little there's a little flavour of whatever the flavour of the day is there to keep it up to date, isn't there? Moonraker in Star Wars is a perfect example of that, isn't it? Where space is suddenly the thing, so let's take Bond into space and all the rest of it. So yeah, that is obviously a concern. And I suppose with how the world is these days, dude, to be remotely topical would be a fucking minefield, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
so let's just not be that topical. Let's just sail on and let Bond be Bond and do its thing and hope for the best. So all right then, let's finish up with a prediction, right? A, thumbs up for November. You think it's definitely going to happen, or do you think it might at the last minute fall apart?
When November.
I think it will come out. I'm not that I don't endorse it or agree with it. I don't plan to go, but I do think it is going to come out.
All right, cool. What's the prediction of how well it will do box office wise? Brian, you can start.
I think it will do good box office, but I don't think it will do the box office it deserves. So purely because of the COVID situation, no other reason. Yeah. So I don't, as you said earlier, I don't think we're in for a $1 billion bond, sadly. Yeah. But I think it will perform well.
All right, Jack, your thoughts?
I think the box office will be similar to Tenet's. Unfortunately,
do we know what Tenet did? Have we got those numbers?
I think it might have just reached what it cost. I think it cost $250 million. So I think it might, if you take in the overall box office take. Okay, I'm on
boxofficemojo.com. We've got Tenet. So, okay, it did 41,200,000 domestic. So that's US when they say domestic, and then 243.7 million international. So it's 285 million it did in total.
I think we can expect No Time to Die to sort of perform the same way, which is not good. Which in normal times would be a disaster. I mean, and then we would be worried about whether the franchise could survive and all that stuff. Which I don't think is a concern. In terms of, because there will be another Bond film eventually. It's just how much, how long we would have to wait. If that's the question.
Well, I here's my thoughts. Then, I think you're both right. I think you're on the right things. That it will come out and it'll make its money back. But whether you said it perfectly, Brian. Whether it gets the money it deserves or not is a whole different ballgame. So I don't think it will get the money it deserves. But let's think about it as well. Tenet is just Tenet. It's a Christopher Nolan film that a lot of geeks are going to like, but it doesn't have the same mass appeal that Bond does. So Bond is a different beast. So I don't know whether it would do Tenet numbers. I would hope it does at least double Tenet numbers, man. I would hope we'd get at least 500 million.
Depends on if more theaters open in different markets. So obviously Tenet was sort of hindered because obviously there's still huge markets where theaters are not open, but at least there are some theaters open in California now. There's some, obviously where I am in New Jersey, theaters are open now. They're not open in New York. I don't anticipate that they will be open in New York. Yeah. So that's a major market that they're going to be missing out on. But at least, but it will have the advantage of more theaters than Tenet. So you might be right about it doing better than Tenet.
Yeah, I would hope so, because it's Bond, man. Tenet is this weird little thing on its own. I have not seen it. I'm sure it's great, but like what I'm saying is, in the grand scheme of movies, Tenet is like a little thing on its own, and it's like you've not got people's grandmothers and people talking about the new Bond film. You know what I mean? It's like it's its own little thing. Bond is such an institution that I mean, dude, if it does less than 500 million, I mean, that's going to be heartbreaking if it does that. But I suppose one little thing they might be keeping in their back pocket is they do the release, right? Say it does scrape 500 million, but if the state of the world is everybody's still too scared to go to the cinema, then do a home release right after. Don't tell anyone you're going to do it. So the people that do go out to the cinema do go, and they don't say, "Oh, I'm going to wait for the streamer." But like literally the day it closes, bang, straight on demand, and make an event of it.
Well, the one problem with that is because of all the studios are adhering to the 3-month window between home release and the theatrical release. That's what Tenet is doing. Tenet actually might have pulled the trick because they released in September, so actually their home release will be in December in time for the holidays. So there could be a big holiday push for people to see Tenet from their home. But with No Time to Die, it's coming out in November. You're going to have to wait 3 months for the home video release, for either digital or DVD, Blu-ray, whatever. So the earliest, if you don't see it in theaters, will be February. February 2021. So that's the whole thing. Is that unless it breaks with that 3 month window adherence, which I don't anticipate that it will, because obviously what the theater owners hold over the studios is that if they dishonor that agreement, then they can boycott their films and not show any of their films in their theaters. So that's what was going on, very recently too. So it's a tough thing. I mean, I get. I obviously we all want Bond to do well. There's no argument there. It's just the times that we're living in. Who knows what the outcome will be.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot to consider there, isn't there? Yeah, and it just. Oh man, what a situation! What a downer. I was excited to come back for JBR, and now I want to turn it off again. Go back to Glen.
Well,
declining box office for Bond. Is Bond finished?
Yeah, there it is.
No, I don't think Bond is finished, but I don't think the numbers are going to be there the way they should. As Brian said, obviously, Bond it deserves better, a better. Box office return, but it unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, you want to talk about something happy?
What is there left, Jack? I don't know if there is anything happy to talk about. Is there?
Sean Connery, celebrated his 90th birthday. So
there we go.
That's because
that's a
we did,
beautiful thing.
That was recent, so that's something I wanted to make sure we brought up here.
Well, there we go. We'll go out on a high. Sean Connery, God bless him, 90 years old, 90 years young, I should say. We salute. Yes. We salute. We've lost many Bond alumni in recent months, haven't we? We've lost Hugo Drax. We've lost Alan Tompkins. We lost Domino a little while back. We've lost Diana Rigg. Good God, man!
Anna Blackman.
Honor Blackman as well. Yeah. It's a horrible, horrible thing. But hey, Sean, the original, still going strong. God love him. All right then. Until next time, I've been Tom Sears.
I've been Brian Dobson.
I've been Jack Lugo.
And James Bond Radio will return next week. We'll see you then, everybody. Bye.
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 Hope you enjoyed the show. Good night.